So first things first, let me pick out a couple of colours, and I'm going to pick out my Midnight, one of my faves. I'm going to pick out my Ocean Blue, another fave, and Oasis, and guess what? Another fave. So they come in their collections of 3 colours, as do all of the other ink pads. So if you were working with Harmony, you get them in your 3s. If you're working with your quick dry dye, you get them in your 3s. Exactly the same format with your wonderful Pigment ink pads. Now there is a slight difference, and the difference is that the inside of the ink pad is incredibly spongy. So you'll be able to see that there. It's very spongy, and you've got all of your beautiful ink encapsulated and held in that sponge. It needs to be a sponge because this is a pigment, and the pigment is a naturally occurring substance, so it has larger particles than a dye. So if I show you, I just want to show you the comparison between our Harmony water reactive and our quick dry dye, because we've got 3 ink pads here, but 3 very different ink pads with 3 very different delivery methods. So with your Harmony quick dry dye, as you know and love, you've got your dense felt ink pad to get that lovely lay down. With your quick dry dye, you've got that beautiful intense foam, very dense foam. That's your quick dry dye to get your ink down there for the techniques you need for quick dry dye. With your pigment, what we've got here is a very open foam, a very porous and textured foam, and you'll be able to see that texture there beautifully. What this does is hold all of the carrying solution and the pigment particles to deliver that ink for you in the most effective way when you're using a pigment ink pad. So we've talked about what a pigment ink pad is, and we'll review that again later on. I want to show you how they work first. So I've got my 3 colours here. I've got one of my little swirls, and this was from the Sentiment collection, I believe. And I'm going to start with my lightest blue colour, and I'm going to do little bits of light tapping on there. And I've got a beautiful lay down of ink straight away. You can see with that lovely pastel, it's very obvious. I'm then going with my mid blue colour, and I'm going in a little bit further. Remember, our oval ink pads, the way that we've made them in their ovals, are perfect for doing little spot inking sessions like this, because you've got a lovely small area to be able to do that with, rather than it being a really large one and obliterating the whole thing. So I've been able to build up a lovely ombre there of my 3 different colours. So you can see I've got my light, my pale and my dark. And then when I stamp this down using my little stamp positioner onto my piece of card, I will get the most beautiful, look at that, the beautiful ombre of colours and gorgeous fine precise lines. Now, let me just talk to you about pigment ink pads for a second. This is where I need to say, listen to me, listen to me, listen to everything I have to say to you. Please don't think that this detail with a pigment ink pad is achievable with any old pigment ink pad out there, because no it's not. And you know me, and you know me well by now. I'm not going to bring you any old pigment ink pad. I'm bringing you the best pigment ink pad that money can buy, and these are there because we have got the formulation of this ink to perfection, so that you're going to be able to do all of your pigment ink pad techniques. Get your teeth in, Leann. But you're going to not give up any of the beautiful fine detail that you want, none of the vibrancy of colour. Add to that you're going to be able to do all of these different techniques I'm going to show you over the next session, and you're going to be blown away. The quality of that is truly amazing. You've got beautiful, beautiful, fine, crisp detail in there with a pigment ink pad, which is completely unheard of in the pigment ink pad world. I've got pigment ink pads that I've had for a while at home, and when I stamp with them, it looks like a big old splodge. Now, those of you who are stamping at home, you know I'm speaking the truth here. I bet yours have looked like a big old splodge too. We don't want splodges, we want this. So I'm just going to show you again, just so you can see that it wasn't a fluke. I'm going to do a little bit of inking. So I've got my light blue colour, I've got my mid blue colour, and always work light to dark. Don't do it the other way around. Don't do your dark first and then put your light ink pad on, because you might contaminate it. Easy to clean off with a little sponge, just give it a wipe. However, save yourself the heartache and the hassle, and just layer your inks on from light to medium through dark. Then choose where you might want to stamp your next one. Give it a little push down And you'll see, oh no, it was not a fluke, not a fluke at all. I'm going to pick that up and show you. Look how amazing they are. You've got absolutely beautiful crisp design. So that's talking about the ink pad, how porous it is, what it looks like, how it performs. You've seen you've got beautiful fine crisp lines in here, which you would normally avoid with a pigment ink pad. You don't have to with Crafter's Companion Spectrum Light ink pads, but then you can also do your heat embossing. Now what you would do, and what I did, continue on, look, stamping them, beautiful. But then we're going to heat emboss. Now I've been chin wagging about this for quite a considerable amount of time. Chin wag being a technical term, is it not? I'm just going to get a scrap piece of paper here. Now what I can do is pop on some clear embossing powder and emboss that background design, and it will get a beautiful gloss. So it has an amount of tackiness, it stays sticky for want of a better word, for enough time. Can you see how this one now is looking more cloudy than this one? Yep, brilliant. Oh, there we go. You can see that one. There we go. That's cloudy. That's not, because one of them's got powder on, one hasn't. I'm going to do the other one too. So let's get some more powder on here. Here we go. Powder on there too. And then I'm going to put the powder away, because you know what will happen? I'll turn the heat gun on and then everything in the studio will have powder. It'll be powder central. Let's pop that there for a second. And then I've got my little heat gun. And this is where you're going to see the magic happen. So if I hold this up for you. Now, when you're using your heat gun with embossing powder and you've used a pigment ink, keep it still. Don't do this, you're not drying your hair. Keep it still, and then look, you can see it happening. Just chase the powder along. You'll see it melt. The colours will become more vibrant straight away, and you can see how beautiful that looks. And we're going to do the same here. So we'll chase it again from this end at the dark end. You'll see, look, there we go. There it is. So it's all melting. And now what we've got is a beautiful raised glossy surface which looks enamelled with incredibly fine detail. When you get this home and feel it, when you appreciate the fine detail you've got with that pigment ink pad and your clear embossing powder, you are going to be blown away. Let's have a look at some samples, because I've got loads. Let's grab the little packet here and show you some of the different things you're going to be able to make with these amazing ink pads. Here we go. So you can see, you can just stamp, and that's using the 3 colours that I've just been using, where you've got your 3 blues. You can just stamp and layer up a beautiful background if you want. You can stamp and blend those silhouette flowers, those outline flowers that you're getting in your collection. Look here where we've used a die cut circle, and then with our daubers, blended a background. Looks soft and beautiful, doesn't it? Very ethereal. And then using the same colours, stamp the sentiment and the little flowers over the top. Here's an example of when we're using them to match with our Harmony Water Reactive. So we've used our Harmony Water Reactive to make a background, and then used our pigment and heat embossed them on the bottom for the florals. Just using the colours and then heat embossing all the flowers to make a beautiful background. Here we've actually used the pigment ink pads to blend that background and then heat emboss that beautiful vase in the centre using one of the silhouette stamps. How fabulous does that look? And you'll see here, look at these. This is just using them with water, in fact, actually, on a acrylic block. So stamp the ink onto an acrylic block, spritz it, push the acrylic block onto your card. You get that beautiful blocky effect with your pigment ink pads. Looks amazing. We've done one of our bokeh backgrounds, look, using our heat embossing powders there as well. We've just gone for some beautiful, vibrant stamping. And can you see that lovely strip in the background? So that's just by putting your thin strips of masking tape onto a card, blending your ink with your daubers, and then peeling your masking tape away. It gives you those strips. Looks fantastic. We've gone through an aperture again here. Look, more of the strips. So literally strips of tape, masking tape, and then use your daubers, apply your ink, peel the masking tape away, making your own strippy background papers. Look at this, beautiful, just stamping with all of the different stamps in there. I've got a bit of a pile now, haven't I? Let me move them out of the way. Here we go, there you are. So you can see, absolutely, technique after technique after technique. They are stunning, and look at the depth and vibrancy you can get. Now this is actually using, this is actually our We've got our fabulous sparkle pens there with our black pigment ink over the top, beautiful. And look, this panel, I love this. Now all we've done here is mask off this side and this side, pigment ink with your daubers, the 3 pigment inks. We're going to have a look at how to do this, pigment ink with your daubers, and then peel the tape away. You've got a beautiful inked panel, and it's vibrant and juicy and gorgeous, and works on your smooth cardstock, actually a different effect to what you would get with your Harmony Water Reactive.